listening to the Rundown Live. Your protection from deception. And your forecast into the future.
Naomi was the name of it. It was a CIA project, the AIDS, whatever causes AIDS, whatever that turns out to be, according to those documents, was developed at Fort Detrick, Maryland, under a CIA project called Naomi. It was financed by $10 million for the Department of the Army's biological warfare programs. It was carried out, supervised by the CIA, carried out by scientists who work for the Special Operations Division of the Department of Defense. It's doing its job. What they have running is several concurrently running plans, so that if one or two fail, the other ones are going to take care of the problem.
Is there anything, any uprising or what?
Yeah, there is, but it requires that people wake up. Requires that they really learn the truth instead of live their life in fantasy land. You see, because nothing can exist without the consent of the people. Unless they buy it, it's not going to happen.
The CIA responded to my FOIA request about the GATE program. For anyone just joining, GATE stands for Gifted and Talented Education. It was also called other things depending on your school district. Mine was called EPIC. And it essentially took place in elementary schools across the United States. P.S. Thanks for following and still being here. I essentially requested any documents regarding any type of gifted and talented education programs conducted with school-aged children from the early 1990s until the late 2000s. And their response is super interesting. The FOIA, as set forth by 5 U.S.C. Section 552 F2A, provides for access to agency records. Based on our knowledge of the CIA's record systems, CIA does not maintain the type of records you have requested. Therefore, CIA has determined that it does not have any records responsive to your request. Oh, because you see, to me, that might read like they just don't have records of it. I feel like they would have said we don't have any type of program like that had that been the case, right? But to say you don't have any records of it, like, makes it sound as if they're lost, or that maybe it's still a classified program that you don't have to necessarily share details about because of this section here, because there are specific criteria that have to be met in order for information to be released via FOIA. Maybe this was done by an agency other than the CIA. And of course, maybe the GATE program was nothing more than a Department of Education gifted and talented program. Personally, I'm not buying that. Let me know your thoughts. If anybody has any idea of a different agency that I could submit a FOIA request to, let me know, because I still want answers.
In 1988, the year following the Washington Post's expose on the finders, Geraldo Rivera produced an investigative report entitled Devil Worship: Exposing Satan's Underground, which became the highest-rated television documentary at that time.
You skin the baby? You take the baby's skin off? You feel remorse?
I had to do what I had to do, or I'd be killed like the babies that they made me watch killed, and that they put in my hand. They said, "Obey, or this is you."
In the program, Rivera outraged viewers everywhere by showcasing multiple instances of ritual human sacrifice. He also interviewed self-proclaimed survivors of satanic ritual abuse who shared stories that seemingly corroborated one another. Television audiences were appalled again a year later when a woman named Vicki Poland appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, claiming to have escaped a multi-generational family bloodline.
I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl.
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Poland claimed that she was sexually abused by the cult when she was a child, that they farmed human babies for ritual sacrifice, and that they perfectly blended into society as normal people. That same year in London, England, a 15-year-old girl named Teresa told 60 Minutes Australia that her grandmother forced her into a satanic pedophile network that engaged in ritual human sacrifice and cannibalism.
What would happen to the fetuses, the unborn babies?
I used to be taken away most of the time, and one time a baby was taken out of me and then killed in front of me because it was still alive.
And then what would happen?
Well, after they killed it, they would eat it. But we were also made to eat it.
You were made to eat your own fetus?
Yeah.
Who made you do this?
My nan.
Teresa explained that she was forced by the cult to perform sex acts on animals and to be raped by up to 30 adults at the same time during satanic ceremonies.
And, I know you know because I've heard it on your show before. I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country, and we drain their blood and we mix it with a Passover bread.
Before Epstein, there was another case that most people will never hear about. In the late 1980s, police found a secret group called the Finders. Police reports showed that children were living in very unsafe conditions and there was possible abuse and trafficking. The case was serious enough that it was investigated by federal agencies, but internal documents released later showed that the case was quietly shut down. Surprise, surprise. Decades later, the Epstein files reignited similar questions. Vulnerable children, powerful people, but somehow it all just goes away. The sad truth is, this is not the only story of this type, and Jeffrey's not the only Jeffrey. So I guess we got to ask ourselves, why do these situations always end up just going away?
The CIA just declassified some documents every American should see. Let me give you some context first. These documents are in regards to Project Artichoke. Project Artichoke is the predecessor to MKUltra. The early goal for both of these projects were to see if they could mind control and make someone involuntarily become an assassin. Later works for these projects include other mind control techniques through hypnosis and other means I'm not sure if I can mention here. This document explains how they want to extend Project Artichoke to the general population. Let me read you some of it. The second type of drug should be one that can be administered over a considerable period of time, possibly being placed in food or water, and would either have an agitating effect, producing anxiety, nervousness, tension, etc., or a depressing effect. The study should include chemicals or drugs that can effectively be concealed in common items, such as food, water, Coca-Cola, beer, liquor, cigarettes, etc. This type of drug should also be capable of use in standard medical treatments, such as vaccinations, shots, etc. This information is public and on the CIA website.
What if I told you a major child abuse investigation in America was shut down and every witness who spoke up was silenced? It's the late 1980s in Omaha, Nebraska. A respected businessman named Larry King, not the TV host, but a rising political figure, was running the Franklin Credit Union. On paper, he was a community leader, but behind the scenes, whispers began to spread that he was involved in something far darker. In 1988, investigators uncovered evidence that King had embezzled millions of dollars. But as they dug deeper, several teenagers came forward, claiming they'd been trafficked and abused at parties attended by wealthy businessmen and politicians. They described private jets, luxury hotels, and powerful men who thought they were untouchable. A grand jury was called, but then everything changed. The investigation was shut down, witnesses were discredited, and one key figure, Gary Caradori, a private investigator, died in a suspicious plane crash while gathering evidence. Officially, authorities claimed there was no credible evidence of a trafficking ring. But to this day, many believe the Franklin case was buried to protect people in high places. Whether it was conspiracy or coincidence, one thing's clear: too many voices were silenced for the truth to ever come out.
Struggle of Cuban patriots against a Cuban dictator.
On March 13, 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff put this document in front of the Secretary of Defense for approval from the President. This is a memo prepared by the most senior leaders in the U.S. military, some of the most powerful men in the country. and they're asking for permission to execute a plan to lob mortar shells into their own military bases, with some damage to installations, and then to make hijacking attempts against civilian air and surface craft. They're proposing to blow up a U.S. ship in the U.S. naval base Guantanamo Bay, and even to conduct a terror campaign on American soil, exploding a few plastic explosives in carefully chosen spots. We're looking at a plan to blow things up on American soil and then to blame it all on Cuba.
The Cuban people have not yet spoken their final piece.
This operation never happened, but it almost did.
You're listening to the Rundown Live. Your protection from deception and your forecast into the future.
Now you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
right, guys. I guess that we weren't having some audio there for a little bit, so I apologize. I don't know what happened, but sometimes, the software isn't working quite right, so I apologize. But what I wanted to dive in today, you're listening to the Rundown Live on Ground Zero Plus, so make sure that you guys are checking out Ground Zero Plus. It's where you can listen to this broadcast from audio only. So if you don't want to see the video and you want to keep it simple, you can subscribe to Ground Zero Plus, and you get a lot of other great broadcasters, including Clyde Lewis, Ryder Lee. They now have AM Wake Up on the broadcast, David Knight. A lot of great people and hosts are also on this network. Ryan Gable. We could go on and on and on. And I've been doing a lot of guest features on a lot of shows. We're going to dive into the digital police state today. We're going to be diving into the MKUltra thoughts and subjects. And if you guys have anything you can contribute, drop it in the chat. I appreciate those people in the comments. This software sometimes is going crazy. By the way, we do now have sound. I want to shout out to Layla, Tiffany, Wildcard, and other people that are in the chat currently. But it's going to be an interesting show. We're going to dive into a lot of data. We're going to dive into what is Operation Midnight Climax. We're going to dive into Artichoke, Naomi. But before we do all that, CIA psyops that are in the news currently that I'm finding interesting, right? There's this subject. My buddy Ben Swan, longtime top segment creator for Fox back in the day, did Reality Check. Had this interesting article to write, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Does the CIA control rap culture, and why might that be? Here we go.
Is USAID responsible for the rise and now decline of rap music? Because as soon as USAID gets defunded, no one listens to rap anymore. Billboard released this article that states no rap songs are in the Billboard Top 40 for the first time since 1990. This first happened in October of last year. It has recently happened again. It's now 2 cycles. No rap music in the top 40. First time in 35 years it's happened. And while correlation does not always equal causation, we know that. Here are a few interesting facts to note while looking at this particular correlation. Are you familiar with the artist Jackson Pollock? He's kind of the father of abstract modern art. Art that means nothing, right? It's squiggles and paint smears. Turns out the public didn't actually like Jackson Pollock's art as much as the CIA did. Because recently declassified CIA documents reveal, by the way, that's some of the horrible art for you, the CIA helped to fund, to purchase, and to heavily promote Jackson Pollock's art during the Cold War. Why would they do that? Well, it was a way to make America look more creative and free and culturally stronger than the Soviet Union. It wasn't just about paintings, though. It was part of a bigger plan to use art to influence how the rest of the world viewed the United States and how people within the United States viewed the United States. Remember this? After Limp Bizkit played Break Stuff at Woodstock in 1999, the crowd erupted into chaos. The theory claims that the music industry saw the mobilizing power of angry nu metal, particularly among young white men, can't have that happen, and responded by shifting its focus away from rock and toward hip-hop to drain that cultural energy. Did that happen? Okay, we don't know. Who knows? Might have happened, but we don't know. What we do know, without question, rock music of the late 90s and early 2000s vanished overnight, and the entire music industry did shift to rap and hip-hop. Now, maybe it wasn't the CIA, maybe it wasn't USAID, maybe the entire society overnight changed the kind of music they listened to. That could have happened. It might have happened. But one of the reasons cited online, a lull in major commercial hip-hop releases since mid-2025. Really? Why is that? Well, go back and look at your calendar. USAID was completely defunded by July 1st, 2025. The first time no rap song is in the top 40 since 1990, October 2025, just a couple months later. And now, 2026, it happens again. 2 cycles, no rap songs in the top 40, and it comes at a moment when USAID can't fund anyone. So, if we know the US government, the CIA, and USAID has a history of promoting and even funding movements in order to shape culture, and they do. At this point, those claims are easily provable. Then I think the question of whether or not USAID played a role in modern music, specifically the now decline in rap music, since the organization's defunding, is a more than fair question. Is USAID responsible for the rise and now decline of rap music? Because it's...
You guys, what do you think? Is the U.S. responsible for the decline of rap music? Is that something that is going on? What are your thoughts in the chat? Drop it there. I mean, is it just possible that our government and CIA colluded with the heads of MTV to promote rap culture to, sell more drugs that they were illegally bringing in to support illegal wars in Nicaragua, which, that's what the Freeway Rick Ross story is about, right? The CIA was bringing in the cocaine, and Freeway Rick Ross, who the rapper is named after, the real one, was selling them, right? And working with the CIA. That's what Gary Webb exposed at the end of the day. And I think it's really interesting, nonetheless, to really think about why is it that the CIA would be colluding to promote rap music? Well, of course, prostitution, drugs, destroying a certain culture, and preying upon their idiocracy and their easily to form and mind control. It happens all like you mentioned, like that whole rap rock culture and Limp Bizkit and how people in rock became rebellious and it was a way to control people. Well, any way the government can control you, they're going to go ahead and do it. And we do know that the government has worked alongside MTV to promote drug culture and the rap music in order to create demand for the product that they're putting and slinging on the streets. That's what the whole Gary Webb story was about at the end of the day. There was like the Reagan administration, right? So could this still be happening? Drop your comments in the chat. Would love to hear what you guys have to say on it. But I wouldn't be surprised. Why is it, though, that when the USAID gets cut off, the USAID, we call it USAID, right? USAID gets cut. Then all of a sudden the rap culture dies and all of a sudden there isn't a song in the top 40 for, a couple rounds. It's pretty interesting, especially considering one of the ways that you can really impact a revolution is through music. That being said, I want to get into some very interesting news stories right here, right now. And one of those news stories is Virginia becoming the very first state to do something that is going to impact everyone in the state who commits a crime, such as speeding. How would you guys feel? One day you're driving, you're in your car, and all of a sudden you get pulled over by a cop. I don't know, maybe his husband or wife was bitching at him all day, and he's just mad, and he gives you a ticket, right? And he goes, and he said, you were going a little fast there, sir. You're going a little fast. And then he goes into his little database, and he reviews all flock cameras that capture your license plate. Well, that's what the flock is doing, right? And everyone who sped, every time you sped, he wants to give you all these tickets, or he realizes that you have a history of speeding. And then the court says, well, guess what? You're going to have to install some certain software into your car that won't allow you to speed, and you'll only be able to max out at the speed limit. At the speed limit that we say. Here it is in the news. You can't make this up. Virginia becomes first state to launch statewide court-ordered speed limiting technology for dangerous drivers. Who's the dangerous drivers? Who are they? Who are these dangerous drivers? Are they the cops weaving in and out of traffic and stopping in the middle of road and trying to rage ticket people for passing on the wrong side? I don't know. They could be. That might be just what's going on out there, because they need to make that revenue because, they're not making as much money because of Uber drivers and DUIs and everything else. So they got to come up with new technology that's going to spy on you. Flock cameras already, if you don't know the extent of what flock cameras can do, the interview with Steve Poikin and we had last week, Monday, was phenomenal. We talked a lot about how, every time somebody gets in your car, the government knows. Every time you stop at a certain house, the government knows. Every time you stop at a certain church or store or club, the government knows. Maybe, you decide that you're going to go to a smoke shop and pick up something. The government knows. You pick up aquaponics. You've been at Home Depot and you met with somebody who's suspect and known for selling drugs. The government knows. Why? Because flock cameras are associating every interaction with what you're doing. You could be a pastor helping somebody that's struggling with drug addiction, and then all of a sudden, you're a suspect. The cops might raid your local sanctuary because they think it's a drug processing facility because you're helping out somebody who's struggling because churches work with those type of people. Tiffany says in the chat, music is the number one obsession, and it's clear to me that music in general is weaponized by the evil industry run by the evil government. Well, okay, so we're going to talk about this, and we're going to collude these two. We're going to combine these two subjects. Nothing can heal like a broken heart faster than music, right? You guys have been through it with music where, you broke up with your girl and your heart hurts, but there's that one song and you're like, heck yeah. It's this really hits home. This hits hard. This helps me get my emotions out. And all of a sudden you feel better. And all of a sudden you're ready to move on, all because of a song. I believe that music has the ability to do things like heal a broken heart, like any other, like no other business. There's no medicine out there that can heal a broken heart as fast as music. It's amazing, right? How about when you're working out? You're like, when you work out, do you listen to like Beethoven? No, you listen to like for me, it's metal. Some people, it's like the EDM, or on the treadmill or elliptical, or they're just running outside. And some people, it's hip hop or other things that really get them going. But the music helps create energy. Music is very influential. And Tiffany, I think it's kind of interesting. You nailed it right on the head. Jason has something to say about the current topic, right? And he says, that's retarded. And, I don't know. There's people out there that are going to be speeding. They're going to get caught, and Flock will already know how often you speed. So it's going to say, probably 40 infringements on the freeway. Because who goes speed limit on the freeway these days? Or everyone goes 5 over. Some people go 15 or 20 over, and nobody's getting pulled over, which I'm okay with. If you're not hurting anyone, no victim, no crime. But at the end of the day, the flock cameras know this. And if they bust you for a speeding ticket, they can go back and look, you're a habitual speeder. Guess what? You're going to go ahead and have one of these court-ordered speed-limiting softwares downloaded into your computer in your car, and then all of a sudden, you can't go faster than 25 in a 25 zone. What happens if your wife is pregnant and giving birth? You can only go 25. No, you're going to have to call the ambulance, right? And then you're going to have to pay that $1,000, to the state there, the hospital, the big pharma industrial complex, because you won't be able to get whoever you need there fast enough. Maybe you'll call it Uber, right? Because they can speed and you can't. But they're not going to want to speed, because otherwise they might have to have one of these speed limiting technologies put in their car for dangerous drivers. So this is what it basically has to say. Virginia pioneers a court-ordered speed limiting program for habitual speeders, integrating real-time GPS in vehicles to prevent speeding. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to happen to the point where you will just not be able to speed anymore. When you buy a car, it's going to have this already built in. The lefties are going to say, it's going to help save lives. It's going to help reduce tickets. It's going to help, prevent accidents. This is what we're going to do. We're going to now make all cars with computers required to have the option for the government to control how fast you go in what areas. You want to know what was a test zone for this? Have you ever gotten on one of those cool little scooters? I remember I went on a date a couple years back, and I took this girl to D.C., and I was like, let's go scooter around the monuments around midnight. And they were limited on how fast you could go in certain zones. Some zones you couldn't drive. Now imagine that. There's a protest, and all of a sudden GPS limiter is not going to let you speed or drive your vehicle within, 5 miles of this giant protest zone that is going on. It's for your safety. I'm telling you, right now, there's a good possibility that in the future, this is what we are looking at, and we need to start talking about this right now. What do you guys think about this? Putting speed limiting technology into your vehicle. Is that a good idea, or is that a bad idea? How many people are out there ready to do this right now? They're like, yeah, put that in my car. Ooh, monitor how fast I go, big government daddy. I want that. Yeah, right there. But that's just part of this. This is just like the traffic variation of flock and government control and observation. They're going to want to know everything you do. They already know where you're going. Now they want to control how fast you can go in your damn car. Hey, why not? And if you want to know which way the United States is going, just start looking at the world around you. So you guys have any of you guys out there upgraded your cell phone recently? If you have, what have you guys gone with? I'm kind of curious on which way people are going when it comes to upgrading their cell phone. The reason being, I have to ask you guys a question because this is happening. What if your cell phone provider, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever it was, said that in order for you to upgrade to your next model phone, In order for you to upgrade to your next model of cell phone, it required facial recognition. You can't get a new mobile number, you can't get a new mobile cell phone unless you give up your face details. Well, guess what? It's starting to happen around the world. And why it's important is, who knows where Samsung is from? I think I'm right when I say Samsung located, it was at South Korea. I should know this. I used to work for Samsung, located headquarters. Is that Korea? I don't remember here. We're going to find out right away. Oh, yeah, sure is. South Korea is right. Okay, so this is definitely touches base. Because if the largest Android cell phone manufacturer is testing this out in South Korea, you better believe there's a good damn chance it's going to come right back here in America. Yeah, America! It's going to require facial recognition for new mobile numbers. Yeah, hell yeah! That's how we do things here. And people are like, that would never happen, Kristan T. Harris. Yeah, just like there'll never be cameras on the street corners or black helicopters or drone program. You can go buy drones now at Best Buy, but there is no drone program, right? There is no Bilderberg. There is no Bohemian Grove. There are no secret societies. There are no crimes, and it's all for your safety. And nobody at law enforcement would misuse flock cameras like, we talked about that just recently happened right here in Milwaukee. Some cop was just tracking his girlfriend. They did that with the Hailstorm technology in the Stingray. If you don't know what that is, that's where they can actually hack into your cell phone and listen into your conversations. Cops are probably using that and abusing that all the time. Why not? Why wouldn't they? Anyways, would this change how you shop for cell phones, knowing that you would have to submit to facial recognition when signing up for a new number or a new cell phone, right? In order as a bid to fight scams. This way it will help, that's what they're saying. It's for your safety. It'll help prevent scams. It'll help people from stealing your phones, accessing your phone, all sorts of things. The plan reportedly applies to the country's 3 major mobile carriers and mobile virtual network operators. The new policy takes effect March 23rd, which means it's already in effect, after a pilot that will begin this week. By comparing the photo of an identification card with the holder's actual face on a real-time basis, we can fully prevent the activation of phones registered under a false name using stolen or fabricated IDs, the ministry said in the press release. Okay, so going to help prevent SIM cards from getting hacked, but it's going to only require you to give them your facial recognition. So, are you guys okay with that? Are you okay with just giving up? Just go ahead, give up all your, freedoms and liberties. This is just wild to me. Ron Paul would be turning in his grave, but he's still alive, so maybe he'll come and fight this. I don't know. Here it is. Wow. Right there. Right out in the open. Not only that, to show you how this is moving and how fastly this is moving, because this is South Korea. Well, right here in America, bam, DHS document shares plan to give local police departments facial recognition tech. Oh, great. They're just going to go ahead and get your facial recognition, and then they're going to ask you out on a date when they stalk you when they're driving around using the flock cameras to see where you're going. Because that's what it's being used for, right? Already. Imagine if a cop had beef with you. He would ruin your life. Maybe you could be let's say you're a DoorDash driver or something, and you piss off one cop, he pulls up the flock, sees all your speeding issues, and follows you around and gives you a ticket because he knows where you're at, because flock always lets him know where you've been, where you're going, and maybe there's a chance they can pick up some drugs because one of your guys smokes the doobie. Yeah, by that marijuana, the devil's lettuce. Oh, by the way, in the MKUltra hearings, they said if you smoke marijuana, it made you more likely to not fall for government conspiracies and, have your mind controlled. So marijuana is basically anti-mind control drugs. That's what they said. You can't make this up. That's what they said at the MKUltra hearings. And, obviously I've been on the Owen Report. I've been on, Infowars, or not Infowars, Alex Jones Network on the War Room, and then I joined Jeremy Scott on the Into the Paranormal, all talking about this MKUltra aspect of things, but we're going to get into that too. But DHS documents share plan to give should local police departments have facial recognition tech? They'll be like, Palm Beach Pete, you keep coming up as Jeffrey Epstein. like we got a problem here. Something's going on, and it's not quite right. It just seems a little weird to me. Seems a little off that Americans who said, oh, this would never happen. We would never use surveillance state to spy on Americans. This is for foreigners after 9/11. Well, holy shit. Here we are. Cops are getting facial recognition. You might need it to buy a cell phone in the future. Your car is going to be limited to how fast you can go because if you got a heavy foot on the pedal, they're going to know, and they're going to put a GPS control system in your car that's going to dictate how fast you can go. Wait till the self-driving cars come along and they don't have regular driving cars, and you have a bench warrant for not paying a parking ticket, and a self-driving car is just going to be like, hey, we're going to just go ahead and take you right to the police station. What a great idea. Not a problem. Pull right in, door open, cops take you out in handcuffs, all because you didn't pay like a $75 ticket. And the question is, how are they using this? Are they using this to go after bad guys, or are they using this to spy on their girlfriends? Because, there's a little bit of that going on too. And, there was like literally this girlfriend had a restraining order on this cop because he was using the flock. Former Milwaukee police officer Josu Ayala was charged and pleaded guilty to attempted misconduct in public office after illegally using the city's flock safety cameras to stalk his ex-girlfriend and her new partner. Oh, boy. He tracked their license plates only 179 times over a 2-month period, falsely logging investigation as a search reason. Oh, boy. Oh, geez. That would never happen. If that's good that he's held accountable. It shows that the government at least is overseeing and holding people accountable for misusing, their flock cameras. Here we go. Let's play this real quick. Oh.
Hey, I'm Petey.
Okay, we don't need that. That's not Palm Beach Pete. That's a different type of Petey. I don't know. They got ads. I got to have ad blocker, one of these things. But the idea is these flock cameras can be used for so much harm. It's just not even beneficial. I don't understand. In a world where we already learned that our government can't be trusted and the things that it gets into are just absolutely atrocious, but we're going to allow them.
Training orders against a former Milwaukee police officer charged with using the city's license plate reader cameras to track fellow law enforcement officers. Investigative reporter James Stratton tonight questioning the now former officer after today's hearing.
We are here on two separate cases. We have called them together because it's my understanding that they overlap substantially.
Prosecutors say Josue Ayala, a Milwaukee police officer at the time, illegally tracked an ex-girlfriend and her romantic partner, searching their license plates 179 times in the department's flock safety cameras last year, cameras that are only allowed to be used for official business. The two people searched are also members of law enforcement and have filed restraining orders against him. We're not identifying the pair at the court's request.
Only allowed for official business. Keep in mind, this guy was stalking his girlfriend and her new boyfriend, his ex-girlfriend. Only official business, right?
One of them told the court she's Ayala's former girlfriend and that Ayala abused the flock system, writing, "This was not a lapse in judgment. It was a continual, repetitive, obsessive behavior."
Now, I got to pause this for a second because I used to be a district manager candidate at Radio Shack, and one of my employees, she was dating a cop, and she's like, he listens into my cell phone conversations. He knows my text when I text people. They can monitor all that. And I was like, nah, and I looked it up. This is like 20 years ago, and it was called Hailstorm and Stingray technology. And the cops were using that to listen into people's cell phone conversations, their girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, all that stuff. And you think that they just do the flock cameras? I wonder why. The only reason why they can get away with the Stingray technology is because the government will not admit that they can listen into your cell phone conversations because it's a violation of your Fourth Amendment right that they do it without a warrant. So they can't use it in court. But they can sure use it to know if they're faithful or not. And she's not the only one. There was this girl, probably, oh, man, I can't remember. I think her name was Elena or something like that. Well, whatever. We're going to call her, victim number one of Kristan T. Harris. Just kidding. But She was for cop, and she said he was listening into her conversations too. So I don't know how they have access. To me, at one point, it's a lot more easy to have access to this. But just think, every technology that they have, they can abuse. Not to mention their abuse of power. All right, here we go.
He added that she lives in a constant state of fear and unease. The other, a former coworker.
What is your relationship to Mr. Ayala? How do you know him?
We used to be longtime friends.
He wrote to the court, when Ayala was using the Flock system repeatedly to stalk me via MPD resources, I feared for my safety. Neither Ayala nor his attorney objected to the 2 restraining orders, now in effect for 4 years. He's already pleaded guilty to attempted misconduct in public office and resigned as a police officer. Mr. Ayala, we tried to talk to you several times. Can we talk to you this time? Can we ask you a couple questions? Were those the 2 people that you're charged with searching in the Flock safety camera system? Nothing from either of you guys? Come on, we've tried this 3 or 4 times now. On the criminal side of things, Ayala still has a sentencing hearing set for July. Prosecutors tell 12 News they're only recommending a fine.
Come on, bro. I'm only getting a fine. I'm only getting a fine for stalking because I used to be a cop. I lost my job. And, I'm kind of curious on what he would say about the addiction abilities of having fusion centers with nonstop data control, being able to know where she's going, with who she's going. That's crazy stalker stuff. Like, that's wild. And you think that's bad? Imagine, like, how Homeland Security and the fusion centers are using all this data that we have right now. It just blows my mind. So does this guy belong in jail for stalking? Is stalking, I'm not really a prison industrial complex guy, but what's the crime? What's the fine for stalking? Here, hold on. Can I go to jail for stalking? I wonder if they can go for jail for stalking. Yes, you can go to jail or prison for stalking, as classified as a serious criminal offense at both the state and federal levels. But what happens if it's the government that's stalking you? I'm kind of concerned. We're going to give them a fine. That's it. The government is stalking you, and we're going to just give you a fine at the end of the day.
At the court, she's Ayala's former.
Because you dress up in a clown suit at the end of the day, that makes you feel like you're superior. That, like, badges don't grant any extra rights. Listen, I respect law enforcement. I have respect for law enforcement that do their job and do it correctly, that don't engage in anger and rage ticketing because they're upset or they're having a bad day, that understand how to manage their emotions, that know how to save somebody's life instead of shooting them, shoot to disarm instead of shoot to kill, and all those old style of law enforcement, that those old timers that really knew how to keep things from escalating and becoming violent. This whole new surveillance state fusion center, pre-crime, we're going to go ahead and look up all your driving records after you get pulled over for speeding so we can limit how fast you go in your car with our new surveillance spy GPS network that will control your car for you. Man, I'm telling you, we're getting into this some serious strange times right now, guys. Seriously strange times. In the chat, we got some comments we're going to reach to here before we get to our next story. Let's see what we have. Flock me harder, daddy. Yeah, I know. That's Layla hits it off the point. Dude, they're going hardcore with all this stuff. They're not covering up, any of the surveillance state. Now, the idea that you might need your face in order to upgrade your cell phone, that you might need your facial recognition to get a new phone line, that's scary too. Tiffany says in the chat, I've had the same phone since COVID and it's only 4G. I have been putting off upgrading anything. You know what's crazy? When I used to work for Samsung, people used to want the old school 3G Razr. The OG, because they the signal was flawless. Your text would come through. You could have one bar and you'd still hear whoever it was. The antenna on the original Razr was ungodly. And what made that popular is everyone was claiming and waiting for the Matrix phone. How many of you guys are old enough to remember the Matrix phone? Do you guys remember that? They're like, oh, they're coming out with a cool phone like the Matrix. And you hold it and it shoots down and then you could talk, and it looked like the coolest thing ever. And everyone's like, oh, they're going to come out with that because it would be great marketing. Why wouldn't you? The movie was huge and the Matrix phone would sell, but the Razr came out. Not instead, but just prior, and that was the hot sell. It was a hot sell. So even in 2019, when I went back into the workspace after, my first bid around due to censorship, I could no longer do journalism. No one wanted to hire me. I was on the OG fake news list, for, basically spewing the truth. And I'm still seeing some of the repercussions and the algorithms on Google because of that. people would bring in these phones and they'd be like, that's all I want. I'm like, come on, you got to get it. 5G's coming out. No, I just want this 3G razor. Just can you cook me up? And some companies were no longer servicing those old phones and people were getting upset. And so that's kind of where we're going with this. So that being said, somebody mentioned something about, paranoia for smoking pot. But hey, if that prevents the government from controlling your mind, you got to decide what's your health benefits, what is better for you and what is not. So the DHS is planning on giving cops facial recognition now. So that's where we're at. How could they use that wrong? Could they put that in AI and create video of you committing a crime when you didn't commit a crime? Imagine when they get the 6-finger issue fixed, like how convincing some of these videos are going to be. There's already some out there on Thomas Massey that were completely fraudulent and fake of him hanging out with AOC and Omar going into the hotel room and having a threesome while he's married, right? They made a fake AI video for a smear campaign, and they aired it in Kentucky. And people, like old boomers, they had no idea that was fake videos. They thought that was a real video. They had it showing on every other commercial. They dropped $34 million into that primary race. They could have flipped a ton of conservative seats. It was a whole bunch of BS, man. I'm telling you. Imagine how many seats they could have changed from liberal to conservative if that was really their prerogative. But no, it was to get rid of the guy who forced the release of the Epstein files. So now we're going to give this facial recognition to law enforcement, and DHS continues to share the plan to do this. Should they have access to facial recognition software? If you're out in public, they're going to be able to identify who you are. They're going to be able to see your social media. I'm talking about going to your good old Green Bay Packers game there. I'm not talking about going out to cause ruckus or trouble. You're just going to be going to your local, concert. You're going to go see U2. You're going to go see, All Time Low. You're going to go see Lucky Boys Confusion. You're going to go see Five Iron Frenzy. You're going to go see MXP. You're going to go see Muse at the Stadium Rock shows, and they're going to know you're there. They're going to know your social media credit score, and they're going to pull up your flock records, and they're going to see, did you stop at the fireworks store before you went to the sporting event? I'm telling you, that's how it's going to work. That's how it already works. You went to Home Depot. It looks like you walked out with some boxes of aquaponics because their NSA spy grid is hooked up to their cameras. They saw you walk in. They saw you buy the aquaponics. Boom, it must be marijuana. They're going to come, guns blazing in your house. They do it for trespassing now, according to the January 6th Commission. So why wouldn't they do it for you just buying aquaponics? It's just wild. The world has really changed. It really has changed, and it's gone down a different rabbit hole. I'm telling you, right now, it's just crazy to me to see how things are going. That being said, guys, drop some comments in the chat. If you want to support me, you can. You can find us. All those links are below also. And I want to get into our next story here, which is local police aid ICE by tapping school cameras amid Trump's immigration clampdown. So what are your thoughts about this? Is this a good thing that we're putting cameras, like local police are aiding ICE by tapping local school cameras amid Trump's immigration crackdown? So they're trying to see who's coming to pick up their kids so they can deport them? I mean, I thought this was originally focused on going after drug dealers and not people that wanted a better life here in America. I mean, I couldn't see Jesus being like, don't come into America. At the same time, we do have terrorists to worry about that were, flocking over the borders. They're already here. Let's be honest. If there's terrorism and that was going to come across the border, they're already here because we had open borders forever during the Biden administration. So, we fixed the problem a little bit, but, it's just happening all over the United States. Just all of a sudden, this year is like the year of AI and facial recognition. New Orleans may hand its police live facial recognition tech. Critics warn it'll help ICE. So essentially, the main trumpet now is that, they're going to go after illegals using facial recognition. I don't know if that's a good argument. Do you think that's a good argument to go after? Is that the argument that you guys would choose? Hey, don't give police the facial recognition because they will go after ICE. I'm saying don't give cops the facial recognition because they're going to spy on their girlfriends with it. Or if you piss them off on the stop, they're going to track you and try to find every speeding ticket. And it won't be long before they start backdating those things. They're going to be like, oh, you have 30 speeding tickets. We're coming after you for all these old speeding infractions we didn't realize you had until we pulled you over with a live cop. And this whole AI-powered surveillance is turning the United States into a digital police state. Now it's, we got to stop it. So we got to talk about this. We got to pull into this. I want to pull up some stuff and talk about some of my research. And you're going to see my personal notes here on these different government operations. All right. So we're going to pull up my personal Google Docs, and you guys can view this on your screen. And I want to talk about a little bit about these MKUltra hearings, because if you didn't tune into the MKUltra hearings that were happening last week when I covered it, and a lot of the stuff I talked about went viral. Christy Newton was supposed to join me on Tuesday, but she didn't. But I ended up on all these shows because nobody else covered it. Nobody was on the radar that MKUltra hearings were going on, and I think that you guys didn't know either. A lot of people didn't know. And we talked about this on this broadcast because I feel it's a topic that we need to really dig into. And so here we go. I want to share this. We want to talk about the actual the line tracing of MKUltra, where it came from, and I want to name the names. I want to give you guys the evidence to dig into. I want you guys to know who to look for and where to look for it. So we're going to pull up my personal notes, and I tried to source where I could, right, on Operation Midnight Climax. So for those of you that don't know what Operation Midnight Climax is, Operation Midnight Climax, and I'm going to make it bigger on the screen so you guys can read it here, was basically our government pulling an Epstein. You're like, what are you talking about, Kristan? Our government would never do that. Well, Operation Midnight Climax, our government went ahead and they found stooges. They found maybe some people that were wealthy, maybe people involved in, definitely people involved in government, where these prostitutes would lure them in to a safe house, per se, which with a two-way window, and they could watch them having sex and record them and then try to blackmail them to see if they would submit, to see if they could program them in mind control, to see what kind of data they could get when they drugged them with LSD and other drugs. And it sounds a lot like a lot of the claims within the Epstein files. So who was all involved? Obviously, Sidney Gottlieb, right? Sidney Gottlieb was often called the prisoner-in-chief, CIA chemist and chief of chemical division of the Office of Technical Services, Sidney Gottlieb. Operation Midnight Climax was a notorious CIA sub-project of the broader illegal project MKUltra. And it says that it ended in 73, but it definitely went into the 80s. Different branches of the umbrella. The agency's covert mind control and behavior modification research program. It ran primarily from 1954 into the mid-60s, they claim, and involved setting up CIA-funded safe houses that functioned as disguised brothels. Unwitting men were lured there by prostitutes on the CIA payroll. They paid them $100. It's like $1,300 per bang in the modern. That's more than probably an OnlyFans girl makes. Surreptitiously dosed them with LSD and other drugs and observed after and during sexual encounters through a two-way mirror and hidden recording equipment. You know, because the government is a pervert, and if they can get their rocks off and get the biggest bang for their buck, why wouldn't they? I have a question. Do you think that these, like Sidney Gottlieb went in there and got a little taste of the action? Because there was really no oversight on this. The goal was to study the effects of LSD, allegedly, on human behavior. There's no scientists involved in this study, by the way. Sexual responses, suggestibility, and ability to extract information or induce compliance. part of the broader efforts to develop interrogation techniques, mind control methods, incapacitating agents, and tools for blackmail or operational use against enemies, and potentially domestically. It was built on earlier projects like Artichoke, which I have another whole line of information on. Basically expanded into the good cop, bad cop behavioral thing. Artichoke expanded into testing combinations of drugs and sex, post-coital questioning, and even dosing in public settings. Okay. So several individuals played central roles, and of course, Operation Midnight Climax was headed by Sidney Gottlieb, often called the prisoner-in-chief. He established Operation Midnight Climax in 1954 as part of the MKUltra, oversaw the program, authorized and supplied LSD. The CIA bought up much of the world's supply at the time and directed related experiments. He collaborated closely with operators on the ground. George Hunter White, alias Morgan Hall, of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics agent and CIA consultant who served as the primary operator and field director, a colorful former OSS officer, and extensive experience in narcotics and enforcement. Now, I want you guys to think about this. Our government was willing to partake in drugging people, trying to control their mind, and a lot of these people had no idea whatsoever that they were being blackmailed. So is this kind of behavior by our government still going on to this very day? I want you to think about that. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. We didn't even get into Artichoke and MKUltra. We didn't dive deep into who Sidney Gottlieb is, which we can do right here, right now. Sidney Gottlieb. Because this guy is the mastermind of evil. Sidney Gottlieb, correct spelling, is often misspelled as Gottlieb, L-E-I-B, but it's L-I-E-B, was an American chemist, biochemist, and CIA official best known for the mastermind behind the agency's secret mind control program, MKUltra, and released efforts in the 1950s and 1960s. Nicknamed the prisoner-in-chief, he oversaw experiments involving LSD, other drugs, obviously sexual intercourse. So does that make it sound like it could be far-fetched that our government would then, if they want to control people's mind, they wanted to create MKUltra mind-controlled sex slaves? Because that's what Monarch allegedly was in the late 60s and 70s into the early 80s. There's the Monarch programs. And they really got this down to a science after 40 years of research. But they were looking for unwitting subjects, developed untraceable poisons for assassination plots, and supplied spy gadgets and tools to CIA operatives worldwide. So who's to say that the government didn't create and implant a program for assassination to somebody that would have no idea that they have the program or have the ability to run the program? Reminds me of Hinckley and Reagan, but, I don't know. Jack Ruby. Gottlieb was born on August 3rd, 1918 in the New York City in the Bronx. He was a born to Hungarian Jewish immigrant parents, Fanny and Louis Gottlieb. His older brother, David Gottlieb, became a noted plant biologist. Oh, a plant biologist. Maybe he helped to make some of the psychedelics people were on. As a child, Gottlieb suffered from a pronounced stutter and was born with a club foot conditions that later shaped aspects of his personality and post-CIA career. He was rejected from the military service in World War II due to his foot. He graduated from James Monroe High School in 1936 and briefly attended Arkansas Tech University before becoming and transferring to the University of Wisconsin, which is right where I'm at, where he graduated magna cum laude in chemistry in 1940. He earned his PhD in biochemistry from California Institute of Technology, Caltech. His thesis focused on growth inhibitor in Goyle. In his youth, he held socialist views and was involved with the Young People's Socialist League. Oh, a socialist that wants to randomly test drugs on people for the CIA and MKUltra, Artichoke, and everything more. Gottlieb joined the CIA in 1951, recruited on the recommendation of former mentor Ira Baldwin, who had worked in biowarfare at Fort Detrick. He was hired by Deputy Director Alan Dulles, whose brother is who the Air Force is named after. Gottlieb began in the technical services staff, initially as the head of chemical division, and later on he was involved in Project Artichoke, Project MKUltra, assassination efforts, and worked with figures such as Alan Dulles, Richard Helms, and operators like George Hunter White, who was in charge of Operation Midnight Climax and sub projects of of sub-project involving LSD-laced prostitutes and safe houses. So that being said, the prisoner-in-chief went ahead to retire, and it seemed like he lived a long life thereafter. But that's who was running things in our government, for people that don't believe that this could happen in the United States, that our government has any idea. Do you guys think they actually stopped doing these MKUltra programs? Do you think that these things are still going on? Considering music, considering, the state of mass mind control. Let's go ahead and put this on the screen for you guys right here, and we'll play this.
Propagandize around the world, and it's the biggest funder of journalism today in the world. It spends $10 billion a year through USAID to fund journalism all over the world. It owns some of the biggest newspapers and magazines, the most influential in the developing world, in Europe and around the world. There was in the CIA's charter, it says, and then there was an act called the Smith-Mundt Act that makes it illegal for the CIA to propagandize Americans. So in 1973, there were congressional hearings that came out of the House Select Assassination Committee hearings when all the CIA secrets were revealed. They were called the family jewels. It was all of the worst secrets of the CIA that they all kept in one place. And that was released, during the 1970s, during these hearings from the Church Committee and the House Select Assassination Committee. And Americans learned for the first time about, Operation Mockingbird, but also about MKUltra, MK Naomi, MK Dietrich. These were all of the MK stands for mind control. And the CIA had these programs at Fort Detrick, but at 220 universities around our country and in Latin America and Canada, experimenting with ways to control the human mind. The LSD came out of that program. And, they were using psychoactive drugs. They were using torture. They were using sensory deprivation. They were using noise, and they were figuring out how to control individuals, including how to develop Manchurian candidates, unwilling assassins through hypnosis and these, other techniques, but also how do you control whole societies through, destruction of institutions, the propagation of lies, instigated violence, and the orchestrated diminishment of faith in the institutions of society and the mistrust among people. So they had all of these, they were experimenting. And, it wasn't just the U.S. The same thing was happening in Russia and in other parts of the world. But, we had a very, very sophisticated program that violated a lot of American values.
How effective do you think the MKUltra program was?
Well, there's a lot of things that came out of it. And there's a lot of it's hard to tell because a lot of it was top secret. It's very, it's a really interesting and a very surprisingly well-documented history. But, I don't want it. But the term conspiracy theorist was there was a memo that went out to all of those journalists who were associated with the CIA in 1964, where they said that anybody who questions the Kennedy assassination, the Warren Report, which was the report that was done by a commission that was appointed by LBJ, and the commission was essentially told, and individual members were told, you got to say that this was a single gunman. Do not let people talk about a conspiracy theory. The named head of the commission was Earl Warren, who was a Supreme Court justice, but the real head of the commission was Allen Dulles, who had been the head of the CIA, who my uncle had fired. When my uncle died, he told a young journalist, he thought he was a god. I'm glad the little shit is dead. And, we now know that the CIA was directly involved in my uncle's assassination and in the 60-year cover-up. They continue to be involved. They're still not releasing the last assassination documents that are required by the JFK Papers Act, the Assassination Papers Act.
And that essentially is what you are hearing here. Isn't it crazy? This whole aspect of like mind control and the way the government is using this technology to really, help conform people's ideas and opinions. And it's no surprise that these assassins have links to these secret government programs. Now they got flock cameras so they can watch you in your home. They don't need to have the programming in a hospital or an underground base. You accept your daily program on your Facebook Reels, on your TikTok flip, and your finger flips there. And, whatever they want to program you, they're going to go ahead and they're going to get you. They're going to try to get you. Either that or they're going to just go ahead and control the rap culture and try to get you to like rap. And it's, there's some good rap out there, but obviously it's not top 40 because all of a sudden this USAID money disappears. That went to go fund government-sanctioned journalists that sound, pay them under, off the books. Pay people to support music that is liberal and minded. Why is it that they want us to head towards a socialist world? Have you guys noticed that? Have you guys noticed that there's an uptick of people that are like, yeah, socialism is the way to go. Yeah, communism is the way to go. Because so many people are perturbed by capitalism. And the GOP's response is, oh, look, communists. Oh, look, socialists. Well, but, never mind the answer. The answer to socialism, the answer to communism is libertarianism. And what is it that the GOP hates more than anything? Oh, libertarianism. You know what they're made up of? A lot of these GOP guys are these old German blood. It's like, oh, yeah, socialism is good, because they still think in World War II. Like these are the descendants of these kind of people. Yeah, like, at least in Wisconsin, man, I'm telling you. They're like, I remember one of these German guys I was talking to, I was like, yeah, well, Scott Walker should get rid of Common Core. It's socialism, it's communism, it's communitarianism. That's what it is, communitarianism. And I said, your kids are going to go to school, and they're going to give them a social credit score, and at the end of their graduation, they'll spit out a bunch of colleges that they have been approved for a scholarship, and if they want to go do something that they really want to do, well, guess what? You're going to have to pay. And he's like, oh, conspiracy theorists, that will never happen. Communitarianism, that's not a real thing. Oh, conspiracy theorists, they're not censoring what you see on social media, conspiracy theorists. No, it's all here. And it's just like one of those things like, he said Scott Walker will never get rid of Common Core curriculum. He's like, the lobbyists are too powerful. And that's essentially it, the money. The lobbyists are interested in socialism. The lobbyists are interested in communism. You know what's funny is that the same people that these people are claiming to be against, these 1%ers, are the ones that are funding their ideologies. Oh, communism is bad. Who's funding it? Rockefeller Foundation, dirty capitalists. Why? Because like communism and socialism are easier to rig. They're easier to take control of. And at the end of the day, it's just theft. It's theft. And the idea of capitalism, I think it's almost more biblical. But the problem is we have corporatism at the same aspect of things, right? We have corporatism. We have people trying to buy up our politics. We have lobbyism, which is a huge problem. The biggest lobby in D.C. is Satan. It's the Satan lobby, I call it. They want the flock cameras. They want the bombs. They want to murder people. They want to go into Iran. They want to do whatever they can. They want to put you on the vax. I mean, let's not forget Donald Trump got everyone that great, good old Jabberwocky that everyone was dying from. But let's not talk about that. And, of course, the Trump card sure beats the red card in FIFA in the World Cup. But that being said, we can't talk about any of that stuff. We can't talk about this whole idea that they're going to control the speed and how fast you can go in your damn car now. All of it is there. It's all there to control you. Like socialism, communism, the whole idea. Do you guys know where communism stems from? Do you want to know where the origin of communism really has its roots other than in the Mystery Babylon religion? If you want to put away the theology and the woo-woo deep unknowns and just go what's on paper, Adam Weishaupt, this great giant utopian that wanted to have, a world that had an abolition of religion, of the family, your kids belong to everyone, multiple partners, swinger lifestyle, world rabid of sin, government-run religion, no inheritance, no private property. That is Adam Weishaupt. And, the whole idea of communism came from the Illuminati Manifesto, which was later reiterated and penned by Karl Marx by the League of the Just, who paid him to do it. And the League of the Just were remnants of the old school Bavarian Illuminati, because they were only extinguished in Bavaria, and then they changed their name in a whole bunch of other places. They infiltrated the lodges. Knights Templar became Illuminati. It all stems back to the same conspiracy sticking its dirty head, and it's the evil 1% bankers funding it, but everyone's saying socialism and communism, it's so cool all of a sudden. But wait till you're in the gulag and you're getting in line for your guillotine, because that's where we're going. The programming is there. I'm not saying I'm just telling you, that's the way they're going, because the programming says it's going to happen. They want to make it happen. And at the end of the day, which side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the side of conformed capitalism and socialism is good? And Jesus was a socialism. Where does it say in the Bible that Jesus went and ransacked and stole somebody's fish and then gave it to a whole bunch of people? Oh, Jesus went and stole some rich people's food, right? Jesus went and stole some rich people's bread and fish, and I stole somebody else's water, and he turned it into wine. No, it was given to him. Libertarianism, like anarchist, almost like. He was and he wanted you to take care of the poor. He wanted you to take care of the sick. He wanted you to do it voluntarily, right? But when we have socialism and all of a sudden we go to war and half the country doesn't want to go to war, do they still take the money from you? Of course they do. It's stealing. It's theft. There's nothing you can do about it. I like the idea of uniformed healthcare where you don't have to pay anything to go in. That'd be great if that's how it worked and you got in and it was efficient. But no, it doesn't work like that. Because we're all going to need a doctor sooner or later. But at the end of the day, you die because it takes you 6 months to get in to see the right guy unless you have preferred health care or better health care. People from Canada who have socialized health care come here, and we have the baby rookie version of socialized health care, which, it was everything the conspiracy theorists claimed it would be. It never has had a popular, in America, Obamacare has never had a popular rating. It's never had a good approval rating. So how the hell did it get put into office? We could have super cheap health care right now. Affordable health care. If we just capitalize it and remove the boundaries of Wisconsin and Illinois, and you could have interstate competition and intercountry competition, and shit, insurance would be cheaper than your cell phone bill, but it's not. There's people out there that have diabetes, and God forbid that they can't afford their $1,500 a month just to inject themselves with insulin because the government made them fat on their fucking government programs. And that's the way it is. I mean, I can choose. I'm getting fat. I'm choosing myself to be fat. I'm going to work out every day now. But I'm just telling you, there's a plan out there, and that's what's going. That's what's going on. That's why McDonald's gets you as a kid with the Happy Meal. You get the dopamine. Then when you're a grown-ass adult, you're hungry, and they control your fucking mind to go and pull up and get some McNuggets and throw them down the hatch. Take those 3D printed nuggets. They're good. Yeah. America. 4th of July. I support this country. It's still the greatest country out in the world. And on 4th of July, I went and saw my childhood best friend. We used to play drums in a band with me, Subdue. We did Vans Warped Tour. We played a lot of cool shows. Juliana Theory opened up on some big stages and ahead of bands like Reliant K and Five Iron Frenzy and MXPX and all sorts of stuff. And, you know, he still supports the idea of the Republican Party, and it's really hard for me. But I understand it. You got to get in one of the two cars in order to drive. And so at some point, things are going to switch again. The Republicans are going to sound lunatic, and the Democrats are going to start sounding more normal because the pendulum is swinging extreme right now. It's freedom of speech. Great. I like that. I like freedom of speech. But what are we promoting in the algorithms? They still allow those algorithms to go viral. The idea is that the government is steering people towards hate, towards division, towards Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. By the way, this is my Milwaukee Braves hat. Milwaukee Braves hat. Last time Milwaukee had a World Series, 1957, we beat the Yankees. Yeah. Anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. For those who are wondering what I'm wearing on my hat, it's Copperface, the Milwaukee Braves hat from 1957, commemorative Cooperstown. Layla says, being a major government op to steer the narrative and feed you hate. That's right. That's what I just said. Like, they want you to hate each other. They want you to hate each other. At the end of the day, it's all tribalism. Packers versus Bears, Boston versus the Yankees, Bruins versus the Rangers, whatever it is. And people out there are losing hope. And I'm telling you, you can't lose hope. There's definitely more of us than them. The issue is we need to stand up. And that's what we're seeing with the flock cameras right now. I don't know if you've seen this, but there are wars being won on the flock camera range. And I don't want to be just hammering home the negatives. But local communities are no longer renewing their flock cameras. And that's right here in Wisconsin that's happening. That's a great thing. Here it is right on the screen for you guys to see. University of Wisconsin Police Department is removing flock cameras, will not renew contract. Oh, okay. People are chopping them down. They're spray painting them. It's because they record everything you do, where you go. It goes in the Fusion Center. But don't worry. In the future, it won't be flock cameras. There'll be a little drone like in They Live, flying over your head going, making the cute little sound like they do in They Live. And they'll just be like checking you out and recording everything. They're going to know who's sleeping with who goes to whose dorm at 3 a.m. Like, wow, might as well install the two-way mirror and hijack their computer for the government. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, and that's where they're going with all this. It really is. It's just wild. So what do we do? What do we say? How do we handle all this? And I know it just seems like it's out of control for a lot of people, but it's not. We have a lot of power still in this, and It's just nonstop attacks at the Rundown Live since 2015. No matter what we do, who we talk to, what we do, what we're covering, it seems that this broadcast, it impacts a lot of people. There's a reason why they are cutting into us. There's a reason why we are lacking sound when things are happening. And I'm telling you right now, it's wild because since 2015, this has been an issue. We have some of the top of the line gear. We have the best setup, and we can still have issues in the middle of a broadcast. I mean, I've seen it on InfoWars and a lot of other broadcasts out there, but at the end of the day, they just want, you know why that is? This broadcast, we don't reach millions of people anymore like we used to in 2015 because everyone does what we do. Like we were doing this back all the way back to 2008 before anyone really did, conspiracy podcasts. It was like Rundown Live. It was like Adam Kokesh, Alex Jones, and Truth Broadcasting Network. And that was it. That was it. Like we were one of the OGs. Luke Rudowski was out there. We are Change. And anti-media. And essentially, ever since they came out with that fake news list in 2016 that they got sued over, the LA Times, I believe, if I remember right, we've always had technical issues. And it's because they know that we reach a lot of influencers. We have thousands of listeners and viewers, and most of them are people that have their own shows. That's how they know to have me on when I'm covering MKUltra. It was like they saw the tags, they saw people talking to us. And this broadcast is brought to you guys by you. We are 100% listener funded. So if you want to support the broadcast, it's in the information. You can find the Venmo. You can find different ways. I'm going to get some shirts and swag. I promise you we're going to do some better things on this broadcast to really help it grow. You guys need to support Ground Zero Radio, Ground Zero Plus. Go check them out. You can get the audio and download the free app, all that and more. This broadcast, I want to say thanks to Layla for hanging out. Even though it's been nonstop craziness today, coming back with technical issues and audio issues. It just seems like something that happens occasionally. We have a lot of viewers now tuning in, and it's always interesting to see, some of the things we're talking about. The whole, is the CIA running the rap industry? And the answer is probably yes. They want to sell more drugs. They're bringing in drugs. They're the ones probably, the Molly, all that stuff. They're making money off of it to fund illegal wars in Black Ops. That's what happened during the Iran-Contra, right? Why would that change? They could do the whole thing all over again. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Cops stop using Flock to spy on their girlfriends. AI, facial recognition. Imagine needing facial recognition to upgrade your cell phone, and speed limit moderators in your car. That's all the things we talked about today. They're going to put speed limit moderators in your car so you can't speed over the speed limit if you show that you're a speeder. How are they going to know if you're speeding all the time? Well, you get nailed once and they check your Flock camera history. They're going to be like, oh, this guy's a habitual speeder. Well, let's put this GPS rack in his car and you'll never be able to speed again until your wife is pregnant and needs to give birth and you can't get to the hospital in a hurry. That's where we're going. It's so wild to me, guys. 100% craziness. That being said, how bad is MKUltra? Like, how bad is it really? And how many of our superstars are impacted? I was watching an interview with Roseanne Barr. She's like, I assume everyone's just a Satanist in Hollywood. Like, it's easier to say who's not. There might be some truth to that. There may not be. Tiffany says, when I confront police, I get spam calls about police fundraising. When I talk to lawyers about them, the calls drop. Guys, it's so wild. I don't know what to do with this world, and I don't know what to do with all y'all, but AI-powered surveillance is turning the United States into a digital police state. And now is the time to stop it. Under the Trump administration, the United States has increasingly become the digital police state, one where pervasive surveillance systems endanger all Americans' fundamental rights, while immigrants, protesters, and the administration's political foes, pro-Palestinian activists, transgender individuals, and people seeking reproductive health care face particularly intense monitoring. Oh, we knew that. Back in 2008, if you had a Ron Paul bumper sticker, the cops would, fusion centers had interest in you. What was that, Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory, where they were covering the fusion state? Was it called Police State, the episode? Sorry, I have a little frog in my throat today because it's been a while since I've been talking so much. But they got it. They're going to go ahead and surveil you. They're going to get you your social credit score. So get involved. Research flock cameras. Research AI data centers. There's a big push for those too. Grab your camera. Go out to the protest. Find out why people are protesting. Make it go viral on social media. You guys are the change. At the end of the day, it's not Kristan T. Harris, even though I'm out there. And I appreciate your support, and we have some great documentaries I'm working on, and we're going to have new swag and everything else. I'm trying to figure out a way to do a really cool MKUltra shirt. Programmed by Kristan T. Harris. That's the way to do it. You better hope you're programmed like Kristan T. Harris. Question everything. Listen to everyone. Don't believe unless you can prove it with your own two hands. I'm Kristan T. Harris, and you're listening to The Rundown Live. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys soon. It's been a great broadcast, and I'm glad to be back.
You're listening to The Rundown Live.